Hello and welcome to another live writer showcase. I am your host, Lord Captain Commander Dunn, and I am just here to facilitate some interesting writing stuff. So let's start things off with our favorite Smaug Aug analog.
Dracoris indeed. Half a second. Did you hear a horrible noise just now?
Yeah. And also,
It's over.
hi Becca. Always a pleasure to see you.
Dramatic, she says, yes.
I'm excited to start Legend of the Seeker up at I think Saturday is when we're going to start up Legend of the Seeker Season 2.
So tomorrow?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I believe so. Unless we want to try and finish up Witcher really quick. Witcher Season 2, since it's only 8 episodes. Probably take us about 4 weeks, probably, or take. But there's somebody that the lady in the audience is waiting to see, so we should probably oblige.
Here's to the bard and I'm calling me bum. Here's to the beast and the rest of you scum. The cage is locked in and the town is aflame, and it's ours for the taking, though you get the fame.
Good afternoon, everybody. How y'all doing?
Oh.
Still alive.
Okay, so that doesn't work. Okay, let's just do... Okay, we'll have to wait for a little bit. Probably Monday, I suppose.
Yeah. Either wait or do Witcher, one or the other. I don't care.
Yeah, it's probably... Yeah, probably just finish up Witcher while the... Probably finish up Witcher while the iron's hot and it's recent in people's memories.
Yeah, it's up to you.
Yeah.
I'm not
Gotta
fussed.
play the algorithm a little bit. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, I just said I'm not fussed.
Alrighty, we'll do Witcher Season 2 for a little bit and try and finish that off fairly quickly. And then we'll start on Legend of the Seeker, since Legend of the Seeker is kind of one of those shows that kind of died a long time ago and nobody but us cares about.
Which is kind of a pity.
Yeah, at least there's maybe a few fans. Nobody is a fan of the books, and very few people that I've seen are fans of the books and the show. Most people are just we like the show or we like the books. And I think that it's weird and anybody who likes the books is weird and has no taste, really, or at least has no standards.
What's his name? Daniel Green gave the book a D and was the only book he had in his fantasy ranking that had a D. It was the Sword of Truth, or whatever, the Wizard's rule, whatever, I don't care.
Wizard's first rule.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Wizard's first rule: we don't talk about Fight Club.
Apparently.
First rule of Wizards: we don't talk about wizards. Yeah. Well, it's actually kind of funnier. It's actually Wizard's first rule is just people are stupid. Literally, that is the first rule. People will believe a lie because they want it to be true, or they're afraid that it might be true. That's the Wizard's first rule.
That's not a bad rule, all things considered. I've heard the thing where people will ignore something if it's outside of their normal purview, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's what I would say. Most of the Wizard's first rule, the rules of wizarding, the greatest harm can come from the best intentions and stuff like that. like they're actually like good lessons, but they're mainly just platitudes.
Sounds like it, yeah.
We have one other guy in the chat, in the back room. I mean, let's bring him in.
I think you've got to start wondering, what the hell is this plot?
Well, yes.
That is something I say ever so constantly nowadays.
Yeah.
Weirdly.
Oh, these are. Oh, I forgot it. I didn't know about most of these. It's passion rules reason. That's true. Magic and sincere forgiveness, both in forgiveness received and given. Mind
Oh, that's
people
deep.
action over word. Only let reason rule you. I agree with that. Life is the future, not the past. Deserve victory. Contradictions cannot exist. Weird. I actually don't believe that.
What? Contradictions can't exist? Surely.
I'm a walking contradiction, a crass Mormon.
The thing is, only allow reason to rule you sounds like something Jordan Peterson once said.
Yeah, because Jordan Peterson is a philosophical gigachad.
Obviously. Man read Wizard's first rule.
It
Yeah.
depends on what contradictions cannot exist mean. I mean, logical contradictions can't, surely.
Yeah.
I'm sure we could find one. What the hell is this Parody plot? We are all a simulation, and I have no idea what my creators have in store for me.
Alrighty.
That's a
Well-
frightening thought.
Indeed. After all, this has to be Clown World. Fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger is Zeus in a movie now.
He is?
Yes, look in general. That poster I sent is real. It's gonna be the funniest thing ever.
Yeah. Alrighty. So without further ado, let's get started. Balerion, then Tarek, then Aspiring. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, I was just grabbing some water in preparation for Destiny. Let's see. And let me share my screen too.
While he's getting that up, by the way, I needed to look back at the last stream I was in to be like, which chapter did I read last? Because I lose track. And I just clicked randomly into the stream and heard Tarek going loud, doing that loud thing where he's like, "We still haven't recovered, you bastard!" Full volume
What?
into my headphones.
Did I knock
Yeah.
you on your ass?
It was unexpected, to say the least.
That
I
was
did
a
at the
frightening
perfect
moment in the
moment.
story.
Oh, it was.
Did you forget all about that? Did you kind of forget about that?
Mate, I can't remember anything that happens in any of these reading streams. Honestly.
That's not good.
Why is this thing not? Come on.
Like, I can remember your comments, but after I fixed them, it's like, my brain kind of sludges.
Because I get the feeling you're using rather archaic technology, Mr. Balerion.
Well, it's opera. I guess it could be archaic.
Christ.
But Balerion, you cannot stream a typewriter. I just need to get this out of the way.
It's not a type. Even I
Oh,
have
come
used-
on. Oh, come on. He ain't using that man ain't using a typewriter. The man still has a chisel and a tablet.
Oh, come on. Even I don't use a typewriter anymore.
Yeah, because
Anymore.
Someone looks at his
typewriters are
financials.
useless.
Someone looks at his financials like, why is this guy buying so many stone tablets? What the fuck is he doing?
He's
I don't
keeping
buy them. I just pick them up. You know, there are lots of stones lying around.
the one guy in Egypt still selling styluses is doing well.
He just has a
Yeah.
jackhammer and be like, all right, time to get some paper.
He
Yeah,
needs to make a
instead of-
living.
Yeah,
But
instead
anyway.
of dog tags, he's sending off Enigma off with sending the young men in his area with cartouches.
You got to admit that the hieroglyphics do look nice.
Paper money's still some weird newfangled thing to Balerion. He's like, oh my god, this is money, but it weighs nothing.
You know what I just realized? You are right, Balerion. Your shit is going to outlive all of ours.
No comment.
Communist rabbits will be found 1,000 years in the future, chiseled into a tablet, and the archaeologists are going to go, what the fuck?
Well, it'll be quite a. It'll get. What's his name will get tenure. Whoever discovers it will get tenure. That's for sure.
That or they'll get kicked out of the university for making up shit.
During the year something in the future, it appears that these old folk used to wear drawings of rabbits that were also whatever the premise of Balerion's story is, because I don't understand it at all.
All
right. Also, clearly your thing isn't working. I'd suggest you should just read it.
Yeah,
I'm going to read it. Yeah, I'm going to read it. For whatever reason, it's not working. Yeah, clearly not. So here we go. This is the Count of Monte Fato, which is Monte Cristo in Middle-earth. Chapitre 2, an interrupted fête. The matutinal, I don't even know how to pronounce that word. The matutinal sun rose, clear and resplendent, over the verdant olive groves and vineyards of the Chiré. The Obit rose rather later, and made their leisurely way to the marriage feast, which had been prepared in the café outside Le Pony Pinson. Samoir Gamges and Rosé des Cotelons sat at the head of the table, across from Monsieur Maury, the benefactor who had offered Samoir a position as captain on board the Pharason, and had given the couple a very respectable dowry, including a mushroom farm. The mushrooms excel in the Pays de Magot, he said. They execute truly remarkable effects on those who partake of them, and are said to render one's sex life interesting in the highest degree. Monsieur, your generosity towards me is of the most stupefying, replied Gamges. Or not but a nini amier, and worse, to do not wholeheartedly acknowledge my debt. Monsieur Maury shrugged off this praise and opened a bottle of Vieux Vignoble. Gamges was clad with becoming simplicity in a sailor suit, à la Gondor. Rosé des, lovely as an elf made from Rivendell or Lotaloria, sashayed with the light free strip of a Longbottomienne. To the right of Gamges sat Pipon, who was acting as best man with the best dramatic flair whereof he was capable, which relatively was not very good. He looked as if he were about to kill someone with his wine glass. Fortunately, no one noticed him at all, while Sackville Danglars and Boutreberousse, who sat to Samoir's left, smiled to perfection. Samoir Gamges, because he was sure of succeeding in his plans. Boutreberousse in anticipation of the Vieux Vignoble. Next to Maury sat Samoir's venerable and apoplectic old father, Omphale Gamges. My son knows how to do these things comme il faut, he proudly told Monsieur Maury. There are some not far away, he glanced at Sackville Danglars, who would refuse a glass of wine, or even their mistress, to their best friends, if they lived in a golden palace. Not so Samoir. Good old Samoir, cried Boutreberousse. Speech, speech. Samoir Gamges rose and declaimed, his voice reverberating through the air of the café with penetrating resonance. Eh bien, my dear Cotelon, Gamges, Sackville Danglars, Boutreberousse, and in especial my patron, Monsieur Maury, announced Gamges. I have called you together for two purposes. Firstly, I thank you all for this attestation of friendship you show me in coming to this humble yet loving feast. and especially to Monsieur Maury for patronizing me with such condescension, and Pipon for giving up the girl for me. Loud huzzas and bravos re-echoed through the cafe, although, had Samoir been more observant, he might have noticed an evil, sarcastic glint in Sackville Danglars' eye, as well as the fact that Pipon was silently slashing his mushrooms with his dagger. Secondly, continued the happy groom, to make an announcement. Today is our nuptial day. We wed today, et c'est un fait, ça. Your number, indeed, was especially chosen to represent the number of hours per night I will make love to my wife. This sally redoubled the hilarity of the guests, eliciting a fresh burst of applause. This was the sort of thing the company liked: short, obvious, witty in a vaguely naughty way, and which did not interrupt the drinking. Half a moment, sorry. 1 second. Okay, back. You neglected to make the third announcement, said the gendarme. Robert Petit-Bourreau, who had entered unnoticed during the applause. I regret to announce that, although, glancing at a document, 35 years is far too short a time to spend among such excellent hobbies, Monsieur Samoir Gomges is departing now, for I am the reluctant bearer of an order of arrest. Adieu, messieurs, dames. Gomges was flabbergasted. There is in this surely some mistake, he cried. I committed no crime except underage smoking. Then you have nothing to fear, said the gendarme, calmly and efficiently removing Gomges from the assembly. Old Hamfa sprang forward, supplicating in tears so eloquent that even the gendarme was touched, and he said kindly, though firmly, Mon cher ami, permit that I calm your apprehensions. He will, according to all probability, have simply forgotten to register the pipeweed cargo at the Chérifferie, and will be set at liberty presently. Why, yes, said old Hamfa. He said he was bringing me some tobacco from Isengard, and so the old Obit was, at least for the moment, comforted, although he could not forego one last paternal admonition. Do not forget your waistcoat, mon fils. The grief of Rosidez was not so easily allayed. Adieu, adieu, dearest Samoir, she cried, extending her arms from the balcony like the exiles of Valinor, learning for the hither shore, from which they must depart forever. Farewell, Rosidez, cried Samoir in return. We shall meet again soon. Et c'est un fait, ça. Hélas, it was not. There was a silence, and then every Maury, Cotolon, Gomges, Sackville Danglars, and Bouterbrousse began talking at once. It was generally agreed that the pleasantry was de fort mauvais goût, and much Bordeaux and caviar would be required to cure the guests of their annoyance. It must, however, be admitted that Sackville Danglars got over whatever annoyance he may have felt, if any, remarkably quickly, and that his conspiratorial wink directed at Bouterbrousse and Pipon betrayed his true feelings. Bouterbrousse muttered to Sackville Danglars sotto voce, You see, what you have done was no pleasantry at all. I am determined to reveal it all to this grieving old father and this sorrowful bride. Be silent, insisted Sackville Danglars. If Domges be truly guilty, any one of us, including you, will have an exorbitant fine to pay if we take his part. Boutre Bourrus shuddered and nodded, and said no more. In the meantime, yet another wedding festivity was underway, where Monsieur de Villefaramir was preparing to marry Fandouillette, the charming daughter of those solid Aragonists, the Marquis and Marquise d'Imrahil. Villefaramir had been appointed Steward du Roi, a magistrate entrusted with judging opponents of Aragon's regime and other criminals. Everyone who was anyone in the Chiré was present, including a pretty, if somewhat sinister, demoiselle by the name of Berutiel, who gave Fandouillette the evil eye. Mon cher son-in-law, said Madame d'Imrahil, I do hope you remember that you must wash away the stain of your father, Dany Toirtier's Charcollianist sympathies by being especially severe against the acolytes of that degenerate faction. But, ma mère, protested Fandouillette, surely we must be merciful to those who have committed no crime beyond their beliefs. Let pity stay my husband's hand. Pity and mercy, not to strike without need. You are young and full of foolish romantic notions, ma fille, replied the Marquise, shaking her head with maternal indulgence. You really must read less Gondot and more Faire Noir. Madame, replied Monsieur de Villefaramir, your daughter is not wholly wrong nor wholly right. Tempering the severity of justice with the mildness of pity is a delicate art, not unlike that of sculpting stone trolls or writing lists of frequently asked questions. We must be as just as our little wisdom allows. He was interrupted at this point by a messenger, who handed him a letter, which he quickly scanned. My apologies, he said. Pressing business, which bids fair to make work for the bourreau, calls me away from this charming tete-a-tete. I must, alas, examine a prisoner. Oh, my spouse, cried Fandouillette, be merciful, I beg you, on this day of our troth-plighting. Non, do not be too gentle, admonished Madame d'Imrahil. The Charcollianists are responsible for bringing in the ruffians and all the evil they have done. I will be a model of judicial rigor, Madame, he replied, but his smile told his bride that he would be anything but. Okay, maybe that's enough. I think that might be enough for now.
I don't think Tolkien would appreciate this.
Old Balerion's getting tired.
The French in Middle-earth. Tolkien would not approve.
You're not wrong. He wouldn't approve at all.
That's like treating the Irish like people.
Question is, are we supposed to be able to remember the French names? Well, remember that it's all written down. It's all in print. So if you read it, it's easier to remember than if you hear me reading it out loud.
Which you think would be worse to Tolkien? The Middle-earth geology porn? Or this? Having French in Middle-earth?
Oh, easily the French.
Yeah.
Yeah, turning Middle-earth into pornography. That's old by now, and people have been doing that for decades now. So he'd be used to that by now.
Not geology.
Well, here's the thing. We're going to get Lord of the Rings porn in September.
Shut up.
Oh, let's get hype.
Yeah, it's gonna
Just
start.
shoot me. This.
To quote Replica Films, I suspect the Jews are involved.
No comment.
What an amusing specimen our friend Replica Films is.
Oh, very much so.
I love him. He's great. He's our Jared Genesis.
Oh damn! Like an apt description, but still, oh damn.
Yeah. So this
Well,
bit is mostly set up anyway.
Well, we love him and we miss him. We love him and we miss him when he's gone.
I'm just remembering Jared Genesis covering Toy Story 2 with the description of and a creepy cook and a horse.
Oh, wow.
That was something he said about Toy Story 2 to describe.
Oh my god.
Jared Genesis is a very strange individual.
Poor Becca's just like, what the fuck is happening?
Do you not know who Jared Genesis is, Becca?
Oh, I think she knows. I think that she's just amazed at the comment.
Yeah, someone made an entire music thing out of it. It's actually pretty funny.
All right, I guess we should move on.
Yes.
Yep, I think it is your turn, Master Bard.
Damn right. All right, so to recap from where we left off, good God, about a month ago. Last time we left off, Aviana was at a festival, at a spring festival with Raquela, the wife to the Chancellor. And during what was supposed to be just a small tournament, a riot broke out, and Raquela and Aviana ran under the bleachers where they were sitting. From there, Aviana was taken hostage, but she managed to, not so much fight as, she managed to fight her way out of the situation by biting the man's hand like the child she did. Probably got some disease off of that, but we won't know that until later. Maybe.
She didn't bite his vocal cords off.
For once, I remember your previous chapter since this is the last stream we were on.
Anyways, that's where we leave today, and after they had gotten away. So, that's actually how this literally starts. Okay, so after they had gotten away from the arena, Raquela had run off, leaving Aviana on one of the park benches. She wanted to go back to the arena to ensure those needing medical attention were receiving it, and had left before Aviana could argue. As the adrenaline left her body, she found herself unable to think of anything but the man's sword at her throat, and in that moment realized that everything Silas had said was true. If she had made even a single mistake, the cost could have been her life, or much worse, it might have been Raquela's. Her very soul trembled as different scenarios played in her head, each one more gruesome than the last. She tried shaking her head in an attempt to force the thoughts out of her mind, but they refused to depart. For the first time in months, fear began to overtake her as warm tears ran down her cheek and she was gasping for breath. "Aviana, are you all right?" she heard Raquela ask from a distance. Aviana raised her head, wiping her puffy eyes as Raquela walked closer with 2 wooden cups in her hand. I'm fine," Aviana answered with a whimper, not even attempting to make the lie convincing. Raquela slowly sat down and handed one of the cups to her. "I apologize for taking so long. Drink this. It'll help calm your nerves." Aviana wiped her nose with the back of her hand and took the cup, noticing how warm and somewhat pleasant it felt in her hands. It was only when she looked into the cup and saw that the tea was shaking and bouncing just how much she was shaking. "It's chamomile tea. It will help, like I said, it will help calm your nerves, but be careful. It's hot," Raquela warned. The smell alone did wonders to help her nerves, as the beverage's almost flower-like scent helped to soothe her shaking hands. Holding the cup in both hands, Aviana slowly brought it to her lips and took a sip. The moment the hot liquid touched her tongue, her dull senses came alive again and began to scream. She cried out and panted, her tongue burning with the fury of the sun, the sweet taste mocking her. I told you to be careful, Rikela said as she took a very small sip of hers. I was being careful, Aviana replied, sucking on her tongue in a vain attempt to stop the burning. The reawakening of her senses also brought the aftertaste of the man she had bitten, causing her stomach to churn. Then blow on it a little. Aviana slowly brought the cup to her lips again and blew against the surface, making the steam blow away before taking another small sip. Despite the liquid still being as hot as fire, the subtle sweet and floral taste did make her feel somewhat better. What was more important, though, was it got rid of the remaining taste from the man she had bit. As the two sat in silence, calmly drinking their tea, Aviana observed the area around her and noticed that the park was much emptier than when they had arrived. There was still the occasional person walking by, and several of the stalls were still in operation, but it was a far cry from earlier in the morning. Where did everybody go? Aviana asked, turning to Rikela. When people heard there was an uprising at the arena, many people panicked and fled, but I'm confident they'll be back tomorrow. I'm sure the criers are already in the street announcing that the uprising was quelled and it's safe to return, Rikela replied. Also, any merchants that fled will most likely be back today to ensure their stock wasn't stolen. Aviana's lips fell into a frown as she took another sip of her drink. What's wrong? Rikela asked. Every other time I've been here, everyone always looks so happy and enjoying themselves. People would sing with minstrels, dance, drink, eat. Even when people were brawling, at least they looked happy doing it. I just think everyone will look scared now, like they did after the siege, Aviana said with a sigh. Rikela nodded and took another sip. I'm sure that once people come back tomorrow, they'll find a reason to laugh and smile again. Even if they don't, just make sure to have a reason to enjoy it yourself. Aviana turned to the woman as a smile crept on her lips and she nodded. All right. Speaking of fighting, though, I must say, I was very impressed with how you handled yourself. Your training with Silas is truly beginning to bear fruit. Aviana's cheeks turned red as she turned away. Thank you, Rikela. Though, I must say, I expect you to be more scared than angry when the man took you hostage. What got you so furious? Rikela asked. Aviana bit her lip and took another sip of tea, allowing it to calm her nerves as she thought about what had happened. I was angry that you could have gotten hurt. Silas and Marcel asked me to escort you, and I almost failed. Rikela said nothing as the woman observed her. Why would failing get you so angry when it's your own life at risk? And for God's fucking phone. I'm sorry. Piece of Shut up. All right. Okay. Why would failing get you so angry when it was your own life at risk? Because you've all been some of the kindest people I've ever met. I don't think I would have ever forgiven myself if something happened to you, Aviana admitted. Rikela smiled and placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. Well, you did a wonderful job protecting me. Aviana turned and smiled brightly at the woman before wrapping her arms around her waist and hugging awkwardly. As soon as she realized what she was doing, Aviana pulled back and blushed in embarrassment. Please forgive me, Lady Wayne. It's quite all right, dear, Rikela said. If I'm being honest, though, I was far more worried about you than myself. But why? You are so much more important than I am, Aviana replied. Rikela looked from her cup for a moment, her brows furrowed as though she would deep in thought. I'm not supposed to tell you this, but since you proved yourself today, I believe it's only fair that you know. You need to swear, though, that you won't let Silas or Marcel know I told you. Know what? Swear that you won't tell Silas and Marcel first, Rikela ordered. I swear, Aviana obeyed. Rikela looked to her left and right before leaning over into Aviana's ear. We have known this attack was going to happen for about a month now. Our agents infiltrated the group and informed us about the plan, she whispered to Aviana. So Silas knew? Aviana hissed. Rikela nodded. Then why didn't he tell me? Aviana sneered, her blood boiling. One reason is that the council still doesn't trust you. They believe that you may be an infiltrator. Another is that Silas and Marcel agreed that the situation would be the perfect test for you. They wanted to know how you would react when you were put under extreme pressure. So they put us in danger so they could test me? Aviana said almost audibly. Quiet down. You don't know who's listening. Raquela said in hushed tones. I spoke out against this plan. I told them you were too young to be tested like this, and that you were just a child, not some saboteur. You spoke up for me, Aviana asked, the anger dropping from her face. Raquela nodded. When you froze in the stands, I thought I was right, that it was too early to have pushed you into something so dangerous. After watching you handle yourself with that bandit, I'm happy to say I was wrong. So, the bandit was part of the plan too? Raquela sighed and a forlorn expression graced her face. No, he wasn't supposed to be there. The man who died, he was one of our informants. The plan was to have him take me hostage and see how you would have handled it. I don't know who the other man was, and I hope he hangs for what he did to poor Roland, Raquela said with sorrow and anger painting her voice as a tear dripped down her cheek. Wait, I thought that... Aviana stopped and looked around. When she ensured that no one was close enough to hear them, she leaned to Raquela and whispered, I thought that everyone was taught to be like Silas. What do you mean, be like Silas? Raquela whispered back. As skilled as him, Aviana answered. Ah, well, the reason Silas is so skilled is because he's one of our agent. Roland wasn't an agent. He was an informant. An informant? Roland's job was to pass on information. He would gather various whispers and rumors and gossip, making its way through the city streets and deliver to our agents. This is how we keep track of the more discreet goings-on, and helps us decide where we should focus our efforts. The puzzled look on Aviana's face only grew larger as the woman explained. Think about it like this. The informants are the organization's eyes and ears. They keep a lookout for information. The agents are the organization's sword, taking action based on the information to either defend the city or attack our enemies. Oh, I think I understand, Aviana replied. But wait, why would I be fighting an informant instead of one of the agents? For one thing, you are not ready to take on an agent, and for another, they are too few and busy to take part in what should have been a silly game, Raquela answered. Silly game? Raquela sighed. The plan was supposed to be that Roland would take me hostage and start going through my satchel, and you were supposed to chase him away. But I don't have a weapon, Aviana commented. Raquela reached into her satchel and took out a small bronze dagger with a black handle. While Roland dug through my satchel, he would toss the dagger away for you to retrieve. If you didn't react, he would just take my coin purse and run off. If you did grab the dagger and try to fight, he would toss me inside and flee. But that didn't go according to plan, Aviana said, shivering, as she could still see Roland's dead eyes staring at her, as well as the blood covering him. No, in fact, this entire operation has been one failure after another, Raquela growled. Operation? Aviana asked quizzically. Raquela took another scan around them, making sure they were alone before whispering. As I said, one of our agents informed Marcel and the council about this. The council agreed that the insurgents' plan should have been stopped before it could begin. King Tyrael did not believe that, though. He believed that they should be allowed to proceed. King Tyrael allowed this? Aviana asked, shocked. Raquela nodded. He believed that allowing the uprising to be put down by the Guardians would be good for the city's morale. That it would be a sign that Tyrion has returned as strong as ever. More people could have gotten hurt, though, Aviana said aloud. Raquela quickly shushed her before continuing. King Tyrael's plan had a different goal to ours. What no one expected, though, was the Guardians... Raquela sighed. To not be as effective as they once were. What do you mean? Our Guardians aren't anywhere near as well trained and practiced as the ones we had before the siege. Most of the veterans and our best fighters were killed in the war with Melith. This left very few to train the next generation of Guardians, as well as leaving their forces very weak. So now you have Guardians rush through training just so there are more bodies to populate the ranks. Without the wisdoms and skill of the older Guardians, all they are doing is sending young men to their deaths. Then why do we do this if no one's going to listen to us? Aviana asked. Because even if no one heeds our warnings, it's our duty to keep Tyrion safe, Raquela answered. The two of them sat in silence for a moment before Raquela spoke again. This isn't an easy life, Aviana. Betrayal, tragedy, and regret is the only assurance in our line of work. Raquela continued. I don't think anyone would hold it against you if you were to quit and run away now, especially after what you have gone through today. No, Aviana said suddenly and firmly. Raquela turned and cocked an eyebrow. I'm not going to quit. I don't care how scary it gets. You, Silas, and Marcel have been the only ones since Matron Alessa to treat me like everyone else. Raquela smiled. I don't think I should have expected another answer from one of Silas's pupils. And after seeing you today, I can't wait to see what else you'll accomplish once you become a proper agent. Should I stop there? Should I keep going? Because I got another like 3 pages. So
I go for it. I don't care.
all right.
Carry on.
All right. By the time Aviana arrived back at the training hall, the sun had already set and had been replaced by a full moon. She had just finished scanning the alley and placed her head on the trap door to let herself in before stopping and knocked against the door. It had taken her weeks and several angry lectures and rants from Silas before she had finally committed the action to memory. She was surprised, though, when she heard a knock back and pushed the trap door open, crawled through, and closed it behind her. When she got up, she noticed that the hall's candles and lanterns had been lit. Hello? She called out, into the supposedly occupied training hall. She suddenly felt a hand grab her shoulder, making her jump several feet in the air before falling over onto her back. When she looked up, she saw Silas standing over her with a mischievous grin. Silas, what was that for? She cried out, her heart racing and her body trembling. To remind you that when you enter a room, you always need to check your corners, Silas said with a laugh. But you knocked back. Why would I expect you to be an intruder? Aviana cried out as she slowly picked herself up, her body still shaking. Like I've told you, you never know who's watching. Someone could have broken in and observed us, Silas answered, his eyes becoming focused on the cabinet where they kept the training dummy. Secrecy, stealth, and security, these are our tenets. That means you must always be on guard. Yes, sir, Aviana responded, her annoyance in clear view as she started to calm down. Silas sighed. I'm sure you've had a trying day, but you still need to be cognizant of what's going on around you. Yes, sir, I know, sir, Aviana said, growling slightly. Good. Silas stopped for a moment before gently grabbing her shoulder and kneeling down. You weren't hurt today, though, were you? Silas asked. Aviana stopped for a moment and blinked as she looked into the man's eyes. They appeared to be filled with worry. I'm all right, Silas. Neither I nor Lady Wayne were hurt. Silas's eyes lightened in relief as relief washed over his face, and he stood up straight. Excellent job. Silas looked as though he was about to say something else, but stopped before beginning again. I assume Raquela told you about the youth tournament tomorrow. Aviana could feel herself going pale. She had completely forgotten about the youth tournament. Yes, sir. She said that I was going to compete, which is why I came here to give you those, Silas said, pointing over to a set of clothes near her makeshift bed of various blankets. Aviana walked over to the clothing and looked at what had been set out for her. It was a new red shirt with a pair of tan pants. You are going to be representing both me and the Chancellor tomorrow night at the tournament, albeit unofficially. Even if no one knows it, we still expect you to look presentable for your battle. If it's a battle, won't I need armor? Aviana asked. It's a tournament, Aviana, not a war. Besides, you've taken wooden weapons to the head before. Why do you need a helmet now? Silas teased. Aviana rolled her eyes as she took the shirt and pressed it against her torso. It looked like it would fit her perfectly and felt soft to the touch. She could see herself in the arena grounds wearing her new clothes, with her sword in hand, ready to take on anyone, especially after today. Yet, the more she thought about it, the more she began to shiver. What's the matter? Silas asked. It's just, what if I make a fool out of myself? Even if no one knows I'm fighting for you and the Chancellor. What happens if I mess up and everyone sees? Aviana asked, putting the shirt down and turning to him. She could already see it, bleachers full of people ridiculing and laughing at her, as well as throwing things. The only criticism you need to worry about is the kind that's meant to help you improve. For tomorrow, though, just do what I taught you and you'll do fine, Silas said, looking her directly in the eye. I promise I will do my best, she said, looking into his blue eyes. I expect nothing less, Silas said with a smile. Were you at least able to have a little bit of fun today? Aviana began when her mind turned to the events that had occurred at the arena. She could still see Roland's empty, wide eyes, sending shiver down her spine. I did. It was a lot of fun, she finished the sentence, her voice trembling. The vision wouldn't leave. Silas nodded carefully, but was clearly observing her. Well, at least you were able to get some joy out of today. I will be speaking about what happened with Marcel and the others soon. This shouldn't have been allowed to get so far out of hand. As for you, though, I recommend you get a good night's sleep, eat a good breakfast in the morning. You're going to need all your strength for tomorrow, Silas said as he turned and walked towards the hatch and slowly poked his head out before exiting. After Silas left, Aviana fell face first into her pile of blankets, and her clothes, not even bothering to take off her clothes or undo the ribbon in her hair. Thankfully, the visions of Roland and the bandit had finally ceased as exhaustion had clouded her mind, gifting her a dreamless sleep. And that's it for this week.
Good aftermath chapter, to say the least.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, quite nice.
I like. I don't think I was there actually, or at least like I was absent for the introduction of the wife.
That was well, actually we met her long time ago. Like, she was the one who tended to her wounds after she had her first mock fight with Silas.
I remember now. I'm thinking like the last one where the riot happened. I don't know if I was there for that one.
No, you weren't.
Yeah.
You do remember if you were.
You weren't there for that one. You just put on the show, and it was just me and Aspiring, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happened one time.
Oh, it happened several times since Wisp has severe focus problems. Like, she'll actually get a headache if she focuses on two things at once. So it took us about 2 hours to watch each Wheel of Time, about 3 hours to watch each Wheel of Time episode, no matter how early it started.
Wisp and me are like two opposite ends of a spectrum. I almost always have two things to pay attention to.
Are you paying attention to?
He wasn't here.
I remember most things.
He'd remember the.
Earth was with a fairly close to eidetic memory.
As I was saying,
it just doesn't.
You're cutting in and out, man.
Yeah.
You're also cutting me off a couple of times.
She's taking.
Never did anything. Never school. Just.
Dude, you're roboting quite a bit.
Yep. Something's off with your microphone.
We're probably roboting for him too.
So what did you think, Aspiring, being the only one who saw the last one?
It's a good continuation of the last chapter, considering her insecurities is a very big focus for her. Especially after she did something to more or less prove herself.
Yeah, you're right. She has a reason to feel proud right now. However, as anyone will tell you, though, one of the funniest things is that, like, no matter how sure you are of yourself, even after like a bunch of victories, one failure can send you back tumbling down.
Oh yeah,
I was in the chat, so I also heard it.
Oh yeah, you were in the chats. Okay. Also, Becca was there, but everyone said that was my worst read, and it was because she was in the room.
Well,
What?
Worst. It was very memorable.
No. Who said that?
Yeah, who said it was
my
worst?
family.
Oh, your family.
What? But you did it so well.
They said it was one of the worst reads because I was stumbling over myself, and I was like, yeah, I had a girl in the room. Any man would. Even the bard can fucking blush.
But you were so in character.
Oh yeah, you were very in character.
Yeah, but I could see it though. I was stumbling quite a bit, like in terms of actually reading the fucking thing.
Well, that happens to all of us. I like the dialogue and Uncle Silas.
Uncle Silas.
No,
Yeah.
it truly is more Daddy Silas.
Oh, he's gone beyond uncle into daddy territory.
The man is basically her father.
Yeah, yeah. That's very cute. So I mean, there are a couple of like really small things here and there. You get it like turned a couple of times in a row, I think.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed this shit. I noticed this shit when Well, look at it like this. It gives you a reason to actually buy the book. You get to read the actual clean version.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. I mean, there's
that's
little
so
things like that.
cute.
Little things like that. As the woman observes her, the woman, I guess, is Raquela. That would be
Raquela, yeah.
Raquela. So as she observes her, or maybe just observing her.
Yeah, like I said, a lot of this stuff, it needs, all of these chapters need, like I've read so far, need another once over to kind of clean it all up. But again, gives you a reason to buy the book.
Oh, well,
It's
that's
clean.
certainly you're doing it on purpose as a marketing ploy.
Oh no, I actually came up with my marketing idea, but I don't want to give it here like on stream because I want to keep this under my hat.
Oh, okay.
Oh, fair.
Most of my marketing ideas haven't worked very well, since either the people who care about my books or don't and haven't read more. So I
Well,
don't know
we're
what
poor.
the issue is.
We're all kind of poor too.
Oh, I'm not. I'm not poor.
Oh, okay. Go and buy his books then.
No.
My financial situation is currently in a process of evolution.
Same with mine. I'm currently working on trying to apply for my master's in creative writing from BYU.
Yeah. Yeah, there was something I missed that Brightness Becca mentioned. I didn't hear the bit we were saying almost audibly. I must have been out of the room.
Well,
So when he said almost audibly, it was also almost audibly.
Yes. So maybe barely audibly is what you meant, but I don't remember because
no, I said what I meant by almost audibly is that she's almost yelling out, like talking in normal volume for other people walking by to hear.
Oh, interesting. That is not the definition that most people use. Barely audible, almost audible is, unless you say almost audible to X animal, everybody who reads that will think that she's whispering.
Yeah, because audible means you can clearly hear it. So if it's almost audible, you can almost clearly hear it.
Yeah, that's why it was said. I wrote it that way, but it's again, like I said, it's something else to kind of look out for before I put this out to publish.
Yeah.
How done are you with it?
I'm not. I'm maybe about 60 to 65% done with the entire book.
How long have you been working on this?
About almost 2 years in May.
Dang.
That's with the first draft, but it's much easier to clean it up than it is to actually write down everything.
Oh yeah.
Like new content.
And then if you're like me, you clean it up and then you clean it up again and then you clean it up again and again and again and again and again and again.
Yeah, or like with me, like I just get distracted with side projects because I'm writing like 3 or 4 things at the same time.
Oh no, see, I do a once over one day on Saturday. I do a second actual read through on Sunday, and then before the book is published for real, I'm going to actually send it to a professional editor.
That'll be good. Yeah, you can send
Or
it,
have Becca do it.
or if Becca do it and send it to a professional editor.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I did name her editor. Never mind. I'm just sending it to Becca. Let her deal with it.
Yeah, she can worry about it.
Just get an editor friend and leech off of his work.
All right, I think we have one more story to go through today.
One or two,
Indeed.
depending on if Hoo-Ha, if Bright Lord is going to read something. Not least, well, he's kind of silent, so he won't be reading anything if he's silent.
I'm just letting you guys talk. No worries.
Okay, I was just saying, if you're going to read something too, then we got two more people. One or two more people, depending.
Yeah,
Pressure.
yeah, it's just one. Yeah, it's just aspiring. And thankfully, we have like plenty of time since we've got like aspiring has like 23 minutes, as do I. And then I got to get going to Smudcast, so plenty of time.
Oh, right.
Dunn should sign his books by Hoo-Ha.
That reminds me of a true story. P.K. Chesterton was signing his book called Orthodoxy, and he signs it Bosh by G.K. Chesterton.
I'm now just imagining Santa signing something with ho ho ho, motherfucker.
You know what? Somebody do a Santa sleigh book, but good, and sign it as an autobiographical thing.
Hello, I am Santa. Let me tell you of my life story.
Now, when I was a kid, we did a thing, a Santa autobiographical comic, but Santa was kind of a bad guy.
All children watching this, Santa is real. Don't worry.
Of course
And
he
he's,
is.
evil. And he's evil.
Of course he's
He's
real.
He's creepy, not evil. Unless he gives you cold, then he's evil. Giving you lung
Or
cancer
if
at the
he's
age of 8.
Krampus, then he's very, very evil.
But that's like the anti-Santa. He's a Trolloc who decided he needed to ruin Santa. That's also really cool. Anyways, let me try and fill you guys back up. So the previous like 3 chapters or so have been following the new POV character, Q. Last chapter, he had that conversation with his brother Kulos, and is now concerned for his safety and is looking for Mitra to talk to her. Anyways, let me begin. Christ, I haven't done this in forever. As Q neared the entrance on the frontal bridge, he noticed there was a new line of corpses near the entrance. They'd all been neatly shot by a plasma ball, their faces completely scorched off. Executed by the looks of it. Stepping around him, Q continued on before suddenly halting, his eyebrows shooting up as he smelled the still steaming wounds. He quickly engaged the face portion of his atmospheric suit. He'd forgotten he didn't have it extended over him. The stench lingered, but started to fade. Entering the bridge, a recruit stepped toward him, probably to ask him to leave. Shooting the recruit a glare, Q passed him, and the recruit made no further attempt to stop him. Q scanned the bridge for Mitra, spotting her almost immediately. Thankfully, her blue hair, a sign of her part Maquis heritage, made her stand out. Q started to approach her, but stopped. Turning toward him, Q saw who he'd mistaken for Mitra was actually Maxilium, a Maquis with blanched pink skin and hair similar to that of Mitra's, with a bob cut that ended at his neck in an azure color. He also wore a black coat similar to Mitra's, with a high folded collar that obscured his neck if you looked from behind, but was shorter than Mitra's, only reaching his waist, and had a single blue stripe down the length rather than 2. In the Ascending Navy, that coat was given to those the rank of captain, but Q didn't know if Maxilium had been a part of the contingent that deserted with Mitra, and Boat refused to answer when inquired, which left him wondering. Maxillian frowned with obvious displeasure at seeing Q. Mistaken me for someone else again, have you? Q shrugged. Can you blame me? Blue hair isn't that common. Actually, it is, at least among Maquis-blooded people. His eyes darted to his side, and Q turned to see some members of the salvage team bringing in some more pieces of Royal Guard armor. Much to Q's surprise, he had missed seeing the 2 piles of Royal Guard armor in the corner of the bridge, one for damaged and undamaged sections each. Looks like this became far more profitable than you expected, Q observed. Maxillian gave him a sideways look, raising an eyebrow. I hope you're not expecting us to increase the amount we promised you. Letting out a laugh and clapping Maxillian back, Q shook his head. Not to worry, I know better than to try that with the Commodore. The cord of Maxillian's mouth twitched. Personal experience? Thankfully, no. And speaking of dear Mitra, where do you suppose I'd find her? The Central Bridge? Maxillian shook his head, his hair moving back and forth with the movement. Silka currently has the Central Bridge, and I think it best if you don't bother her right now. The casualty report came in. Bad? Maxillian shrugged. Depends on how you look at it. We got 2 with 3rd-degree plasma burns and 1 with a 4th-degree burn in the med bay. 2 died during our standoff at the port entrance, 2 more died during Silica sweep, and then there's Manak. Considering the unexpected opposition we are facing, I'd say we did fairly well, but that hardly means much to her. Can't say I blame her, Q sympathized. But what's with the 3 bodies outside? Royal Guard, Maxillian growled. Some were discovered to survive unconscious from your stunt near the port entrance during salvaging. The wetnecks had to bring them here, thinking we'd keep them as prisoners or for ransom. Q scoffed. Naive wetnecks indeed. I presume you're the one who ordered them executed? Of course, no need to bother Mitra with that. Maxillian turned to him. Did I ask the obvious question? No, but I still haven't heard an answer to mine, he pointed out. Maxillian rolled his eyes. Check the cockpit of the frigate we came in on. Most likely place you'll find her. Q nodded. And to your question, yes, the Royal Guard were here because of me. I am more interested in how they knew to place 2 units on this ship in time for our hijacking. Manak hadn't even spotted them. He would have reported if so. This wasn't the only ship that had them. They are on other ships as well. Maxillian's lips parted slightly in surprise. I find that hard to believe. How do you notice? A very reliable source. Pressing his lips together, Maxillian let out a dissatisfied hum, but didn't pry further. They had worked together enough time to trust each other. We're not going to have to worry about Royal Guards every time we hijack a Latticean ship from now on, are we? Pursing his lips, Q took a deep inhale through his nose for answering. I'll speak to Mitra about it, but I'd suggest avoiding Latticean ships for a time. Shaking his head, Q heard Maxillian grumble something under his breath. Waving Q away, Maxillian called over a recruit who had been waiting to speak with him. Q took the opportunity to leave and find Mitra. They had quite a lot to talk about. What's our current ETA till we reach the system's hyperring? Mitra asked, leaning forward on the pilot seats with her hands. One of the frigate's pilots checked the navigation panel. Current time is 43 standard minutes until arrival. Mitra nodded. Contact me 5 minutes before arrival to confirm our destinations. I may have the frigate and cargo vessel split. The pilots gave their affirmatives. Sitting in one of the seats, Mitra found herself longing for a cruiser. The cockpit of the frigate was on the larger side, with room for 2 pilots at the front, with stations specialized for navigation, weapons, scanners, maintenance, and more on the sides, and 4 guest seats in the center. Mitra was sitting in one of those guest seats, her vision of the viewport obscured by the pilots. Her eyes still squinted against the light, even though the interior of the frigate was made of a darker gray metal than the cargo vessel, and despite being the pilot's superior, she didn't feel very in command. Not like when she was in the dimmed bridge of her cruiser, her commodore chair at the very center, able to draw up any of the ship's functions in front of her, with a clear view of the viewport and the stars stretching by. There, she felt in command. Behind her, the entrance to the cockpit slid open, and Mitra set her thoughts aside. Standing and turning around, Mitra smiled when she saw it was Q who had entered, wearing the spares he'd brought along, and with his face covered again oddly. You always knew how to clean up nicely, she teased. Mitra tapped her cheek. You get a bruise from one of the medics? Visibly starting, Q retracted the portion. No, but not for lack of them trying. There were some Royal Guard survivors that Maxillium had executed and I got a whiff of them. Mitra nodded. Speaking of the Royal Guards, she crossed her arms, letting her question hang. Q took a step closer and sat on the arm of one of the chairs, resting his arm on the top of the backrest. Reaching into his coat, he brought out a sucker and was bringing it to his lips when she snatched it out of his fingers. He frowned at her, his expression that of disbelief. Talk first, then you can use this, Mitra told him, pointing at him with the dispenser. But talking is so much easier after a dose, he complained. Mitra raised an eyebrow and he smiled. All right, I'll abstain for now, but I must say you should probably take one yourself. You seem a little stiff. Considering the suggestion, Mitra raised the sucker to her lips and took a breath. Holding it in, Mitra felt the drug creating a burning sensation in her chest that was somewhere right between discomforting and relaxing. The tightness she'd been feeling started to thaw away. My dear Commodore, how unprofessional, Q said while grinning from ear to ear, somehow looking comfortable sitting on a thin rod of metal that was the armrest. Shut it, she snapped. I'm off duty. You misunderstand. I'm not chastising you taking a breath. I'm chastising you for not asking me. It's only common courtesy to ask permission to use someone else's sucker. In response, Mitra took another inhale, which made Q smile wider somehow. So the Royal Guard, Mitra asked again, her voice tight. That second dose might have been a little too much. The burn on her chest was now definitely uncomfortable. Q pursed his lips, his posture no longer so relaxed. They were here for me, I'm sure you guessed. Kulo somehow managed to convince Mirage to lend him a few units. Biting the inside of her bottom lip, Mitra absorbed that. What else did he tell you? Q raised an eyebrow. How did you know we spoke? You used the ship to carry your transmission, Q. It might be too encrypted for me to see inside, but I can see where that transmission was sent. Smirking, he nodded to himself, looking toward the viewport. We spoke. He admitted to having assigned Royal Guard units to this ship, among others. How he'd been able to predict this vessel would be attacked, I cannot fathom. Mitra grunted. That's because you can't fathom your brother making any smart decisions. You probably chose cargo vessels that were repurposed and would be loading at landing docks with lesser security, making them tempting targets. For the land's ambitious, maybe, but I tend to work with people with a bit more grit. By the sources, the Space Spender is one of the most notorious criminal organizations in ascending territory. Q noticed Mitra's face tighten at the word criminal. What? You are? You're like with someone who's known as possibly the greatest individual criminal of all time. Everyone knows you as traitors. May as well accept it. Unlike you, I don't revel with having been labeled with that title. As for Kulos, I never said the decision was brilliant, but it was clever. Clever enough to caught us, Mitra waved her finger from her and Q for effect, off guard. Q scoffed. You rarely go for such easy targets. Only reason you made an exception was to break into new recruits. This was nothing but chance. Which begs the question of how long this has been going on, Mitra mused. I haven't heard anything but Royal Guards guarding cargo vessels. Either this is a recent development, or it's been kept well under wraps. From what I could infer, this wasn't done recently. Mitra cursed, moving behind the chair and tapping her nails on the top of the backrest. That does not bode well for either of us. Well, if it's any consolation, I don't think Kulos has access to enough Royal Guard to supplement all his ships. Q hopped down, pacing slowly. He clearly had to be selective, and as you said, he probably focused on ships that seemed to be, tempting targets. He looked at her. What I'm more worried about is what else he may have up his non-existent sleeves. I'm surprised he even needed to ask Mirage for the Royal Guard, Mitra said, sitting down. He is the current head of the Lassian royal family. He has access to virtually infinite wealth of resources. He can make his own Mirage Royal Guard solely to hunt you down. Q paused mid-pace. He opened his mouth to speak before throwing a suspicious glance at the pilots. He shook his head toward the door, motioning for them to continue this somewhere private. Mitra nodded, pushing herself up and leading the way to her quarters. Once inside, Mitra locked the entrance, hoping nobody would need her soon. Turning to Q, she found, amusingly, that he had a perplexed expression on his face as he studied her quarters. This is your quarters? The room was bare, with just a single bunk and a desk, which had her screen laying on it. These are my temporary accommodations, she told him, smiling to herself. Sometimes his previous life peeked through at the oddest of times. My quarters on my old flagship aren't quite as bare. Q nodded in understanding. She could never tell how much of his reaction had been genuine and not over-dramatized. I was worried that time in the Ascending Navy left you with no sense of style. Besides the coats, that is, he added. Mitra frowned deeply. Just the coat? He gave her a serious look. You have seen Maxillium's hair, right? The comment made Mitra's jaw drop for a moment, but she collected herself, putting her hands on her hips. My hair is fine, thank you. Yeah, it works for you, but on him... He left his comment unsaid. She shook her head slowly in disbelief, a flabbergasted expression on her face, with a mouth partly agape and eyebrows cocked. Why, every time does this happen with you? I swear, we came here to... Your bunk cover is floating, Q interrupted, nodding toward the corner next to her. Don't change it up, Mitra paused, looking to her bunk. Back at Q, and then again to her bunk. Indeed, the portion of her covers nearest to her had started to float, having gone weightless, an effect of her potency, though it rarely happened to her. A moment later, the sheet slowly settled back down, its gravity returning to normal. Mitra raised her hands up in exasperation. She pointed accusingly at Q. That was your fault. The infuriating man just shrugged. I'll take it. Giving him a flat look, she recomposed herself. I swear this always happens with us, she muttered under her breath, loud enough for Q to hear. Now what did you want to tell me that you didn't want to say near the pilots? Q's expression fell, his mood visibly sobering. He looked at her bunk and pointed questioningly. Mitra gave a slight nod as she motioned for him to sit. Settling himself down carefully as not mess up her sheets, a habit she didn't know if he got from the royal families or just himself, Q took out a small holocom. He held onto it for a moment, tapping his finger against it as he considered, before laying it next to him. Going back in its logs, Q replayed Kulos' last communication for her. The hologram would switch back between Q and Kulos depending on who was speaking, and Mitra was immediately shocked by what she saw. Q had told her about Kulos' problem with restraint, and yet had been exaggerating. She even flinched when Kulos broke the glass. What also surprised her was Q's anger toward Kulos. She always seen it simmering beneath the surface, the way he stiffened when his name was said, how his eyes hardened and mood soured. To see it so nakedly displayed before her, it took her aback. By the time the replay finished, her expression was that of concern, her eyebrows close together as she moved her eyes from staring at the hologram to Q. Well, he asked, gesturing to the hologram. Mitra hesitated, the image of Q grinning with murder in his eyes stuck in her head. What exactly did you want to show me? That ending. Standing up, he snatched up the holocom and stuffed it in his coat. It felt off. He mentioned a next part, Mitra remembered, trying to focus on the Q in front of her, the Q that was deep in thought, with hands behind his back while looking slightly downwards. Yeah, that's what has me concerned. He sounds like he's had a plan in motion for a while, one that's about to near completion. Q shook his head, a tight, frantic motion. You're right, he doesn't need to request for royal guards. There's something else to this. This isn't him. Mitra crossed her arms. Now you've lost me. Q's head snapped up to her. Kulos is an idiot. He has no vision, no foresight. He isn't capable of subtlety. And yet we both agree there seems to be something larger happening, right? Now who is capable of all those things and is willing to send royal guards? Finally hit her what Q was saying, a realization that sent a cold flash of sweat through her. You think Mirage herself is helping Kulos with this? Help is being polite. I think Kulos, at some point, went to her with his familial dispute, bringing me to her very unwanted attention. He didn't just end up asking for help, he asked her to fucking deal with it. Bringing a finger to her chin and pursing her lips, Mitra recalled everything with that new context. But Kulos said he chose the ships the royal guards would be placed on. Mirage probably delegated our responsibility to him, which would explain the misguided effort. Q licked his lips, his expression growing more troubled. But even that I'm less sure. Mirage is notorious for messing with people. She knows to get in people's heads with more weight than one. Mitra said nothing. If what he said was true, any consultation would be meaningless. She technically also had the scrutiny of the sources, but as of yet, none of them had given her their personal attention. Well, except for one. but didn't need to worry about her. Q idly reached his hand out for a sucker, which Mitra relinquished. He took a breath, but the drug didn't seem to have much of an effect. He still seemed unnerved. Mitra couldn't remember a time when she saw Q nervous. This was the man who would charge into the middle of a crossfire with a grin on his face. And here he was, sweat on his forehead, all the verve and zeal gone, staring out into nothing with empty intensity. "So, what are you going to do?" she finally asked. Holding the sucker in between two fingers, Q took another dose. "Go to ground for a while. Hey, pay certain someone for a visit." "You have somewhere in mind?" "No, but wouldn't mind being dropped off at Sullen too." Mitra's face scrunched up at the mention of Sullen. The entire system had a fairly infamous reputation among the Ascending Navy. Most of it centered on Sullen too. A dim world and a negligible system is one of the now fairly few worlds without a planetary shield or dedicated defense force, and considered out of the reach of the Ascending territory. She harbored the disdain of an old captain of hers that had for that planet, and it wasn't until after her desertion she truly understood why. If you needed to hide from the Ascending territory, Sullen 2 was where you went first before hiding. It was the Ascending territory's blind spot, and it was constantly exploited, much to their chagrin. Q would probably spend a day or two there before smuggling himself off-world. If the Ascending territory had any inkling of Q's whereabouts, Sullen 2 was where they would lose it. "I can have the pilots take the frigate and dump you off while I take the cargo ship," Mitra offered. "That would be appreciated." They eyed each other, and Mitra extended her hand to him, standing formally. The corner of Q's lip twitched, and he accepted her hand, before tightly enveloping her. Laughing, she returned to embrace, patting him on the back. Letting each other go, Mitra saw he was smirking. Despite the many memories of that smirk seeming mischievous and even sometimes alarming, it now reminded her of almost childlike. Still mischievous, but with a glint of glee in his eyes. "You take care of yourself, Q." "I always do," he assured her. "Until next time." They always assumed there'd be a next time. Q gave her a small bow, one arm behind his back and the other holding the brim of his hat, lifting it up to her, revealing his short, unkempt black hair. A rare sight. "Next time," he agreed. And that's the end. Thoughts?
A bit of exposition to kind of get us a little bit more knowledgeable about what's going on. I think it's well timed in terms of getting us to know exactly what the political climate is. I don't know if I fully followed everything, but I think that you definitely got a lot of information out there very quickly and efficiently.
Okay, that's nice.
All I have to say is the moment I heard blue hair, I went, "Fucking libs."
Well,
Fucking liberals.
It's
Good.
weird woke liberals, to be fair.
And I'm not going to lie, that's what I turned off because, as usual, I get hung up on one thing and I'm like, fucking, they have blue hair. God fucking damn it. Hair dye has become a genetic trait.
Well, yes, I literally have a species of rainbow people.
Ah, you fucking liberal.
Okay, in my defense, the inspiration was the fucking Twi'leks.
Fucking liberal.
Well, considering that most liberals have kind of done away with conventional beauty standards, now is pretty based.
Yeah.
So hair is political now, along with everything else.
In some aspects, unfortunately.
Well,
Yeah.
it's like it's kind of the argument of physiognomy. Everybody who is woke basically has the same fashion preferences along with the same movie preferences.
It's like this. There's a haircut that everyone refers to as the lesbian cut. I find the cut stylish. However, the connotations with it do irk me.
You mean where they shave one side of the head?
Yeah, like V from Arcane.
Here's the thing. That would never have flown in like 500 years ago because hair was a sign of beauty. What the fuck are you saying if you shave your head?
Well, I think women did shave part of their. I think they did have like these big. They shaved their foreheads or something.
Shave their foreheads? What?
It looks kind of weird. Like
They have like a
they,
nun's habit.
like they've got their hair pulled back in this weird way, so their forehead is like so really huge or something. It's some bizarre thing they did back then.
Don't lie, Bart. It wasn't the hairstyle. You're just a crazy, confused, silly human. Doing right now.
So, did you literally hear nothing past the blue hair?
I'm not gonna lie, dude. Even when I was reading my thing, I have such a fucking headache. And the moment I heard blue hair, I was like, I this is not disrespect to you. I just have a headache I haven't been able to shake for like the last 3 hours.
Oh, that's
Ouch.
fine. No worries. I'm just surprised blue hair is what did it. I swear I've had colored hair in this story before this.
No, I'm sure I've also said fucking liberals when that happens too.
I'm thinking,
Yeah,
like, I have tentacle-haired people.
Okay,
Well,
see that's fucking based because Call of Cthulhu is based.
Well,
Call of Cthulhu is frickin' racist.
well,
That's not why it's based. It's because it tells us that life is pointless. God done. What the fuck?
well. I know
Well,
a lot of
That is based.
liberals or progressives, and I mean, in some ways, I agree with their politics, but that's beside the point. But the point is that none of them has blue hair.
Well, I agree with certain politics. I just don't agree when they riot and censor their own people.
Yeah, here's the thing. I would agree with a lot of shit they say, but it's kind of like people will say, I agree with what BLM is doing. I just don't like the group.
Oh, I don't even agree with what BLM is doing. They've demonstrably raised murder rates in certain areas because the cops are afraid to go into certain areas of cities, and because of that, 90% murder rates have happened.
It's like
So you don't agree that blacks should object to being shot at out of hand?
Oh, I
Essentially.
agree with that. I just think that I think that their reason was good. I just think that the outcome has created a far worse problem.
It's the weird pushback. You're
we
doing.
need to drop this now. We're going into some territory we don't need to be going into.
That is also true, yes. Sorry.
Yeah.
I've been
Also,
listening to the Coddling of the American Mind, and it's been a very interesting reading.
I might actually see that because fucking oversensitive Americans. But Becca, you don't need to vouch for him. I believe Tarek. He's one of the people who I can trust to be blunt with me no matter the circumstance. Unlike my other friend who I sent a picture to him with this stupid thing that. Do any of you guys know Sky Fox? You should, Chi. He's in the
Yeah. Oh, he's the one who won't shut up about his thing, right?
Yes.
Okay. I have never been more bored hearing someone talk about their fucking book. And I'm like, is this what it's like when I talk about mine? I feel bad now.
I guaranteed you you are not as bad as him, because my friend constantly looks in his little thing because he finds whatever he says funny. And this little gem came in of healing spring waters have increased oxygen in them to allow the bodies of species to be fully submerged at the risk of drowning.
What?
He's trying to say increased oxygen content in the water keeps humans from drowning. This is real. It's really stupid. He clearly doesn't understand what drowning is. And so I sent this to one of my friends who reads my chapters occasionally and was like, he's going to see why this is stupid, right? And his first message, because I didn't tell him who wrote it, so he might have thought it was me. And he was like, "That's an interesting way to use that concept." I'm like, "Okay, I'm just gonna tell you now. I didn't write this. Now, do you want to point out the stupid thing in it now?" And he was like, "Yeah, that's not how breeding works." I'm like, "God fucking damn it, mate! I need you to be able to tell me if I do something this stupid. I need that friend."
But the problem with now we've gone from it's stupid saying things we probably shouldn't talk about on this to let's beat up one guy, and I'm much more in favor of that. The problem with Fox is everything Fox does is he never talks about his book. He talks about the world building only, and I'm like, I don't give a shit. I have no context or anything to latch on to.
There aren't any characters for me to be interested in.
Like, yeah, and here's the thing. We're going to do an inspiration stream at some point, and I might bring him up then as well, because this is legit how his world building works. He finds a cool looking image on, like, Pinterest, and then designs something in his world around it. And it's so bad because of it. Like, he's made this claim that, you know the Game of Thrones giants, right, then?
Yeah, the guys who they look like giant Neanderthals.
Yeah, he thinks they're too small and should never be considered giants.
Admittedly, I start out with a concept, and oftentimes I'll get ideas for more of that concept on Pinterest, like my Dark Inquisition or Night of the Abyss. Pinterest board is rapidly growing with a lot of artwork of strange knights in armor. But yeah, speaking of which,
being inspired by images is a valid way. Hell, I did it. Q is literally inspired by a Night Core cover art. That's literally all that made the character.
Balerion said something.
C.S. Lewis was inspired by images in his head for all his like fantasy and science fiction books, but I don't think he read them you don't think he saw them on Pinterest.
Well, C.S. Lewis was a hack who didn't have Pinterest, now wasn't he?
Yeah, plus he's dead, therefore he must stink.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, see? Man fucking died. How good was his shit? He's been alive.
Yeah, he's good for
but
children.
He's dead. He's good, but he's also dead.
Yeah. He's a very smart and creative man who managed to weave together multiple pre-existing things into a current thing.
The man took the Bible and wrote fan fiction. Be honest.
Good fan fiction, though.
With Centaur. I'm gonna make my own Bible with centaurs and world-hopping children.
And we're gonna tell the story of Jesus, but have Judas be forgiven. No, I'm never going to forgive that. The child should have hung. At least fucking Judas had the common decency to kill himself.
Where did the C.S. I don't think that C.S. Lewis is. I love C.S. Lewis's writing. I listen to the Chronicles of Narnia books on repeat, but I just don't think Prince Caspian is that good. I think it's very, very like it's his weak. I think it's the weakest out of all the books.
It's pretty weak.
I think most things about it are weak. There's very little character development. The even like the allegory / theme is very, very weak, very kind of weakish. And doesn't really come together totally.
Anyways, to your comment on the inquiry one, wouldn't it be inquiry? Because he's not challenging statement. He's just like asking, is this guy part of your contingent that went with you?
Well, it's mainly just like he said when inquired. It just sounds weird.
How would when asked be better? Because he's not challenging
when
them. That's the thing.
questioned. When questioned.
When questioned, okay.
Since when inquired, it like the way that you would use inquired in that particular sentence would be when he inquired about his presence there.
Oh, inquired is intransitive.
Yeah.
I'm trying to intersperse a slight bit of pompousness into him due to his background, because he's from like the richest family in the world.
I think that inquired is a good. I think that it's a good choice of words, and I think it could demonstrate the character. It's just that when inquired is a weird sentence because inquired is not an action. Well, okay, so
it's like I say, it's not transitive. It's what you're trying to say, I think.
Yeah,
well,
like
it's
questioning somebody, you can't inquire. You can say I'm questioning someone. You can't say I'm inquiring someone. You can say I'm inquiring after someone, but you can't really say I'm inquiring someone. It's weird. It's weird. English makes no sense in a lot of ways as a language. It breaks its own rules frequently.
Yeah, and sometimes we can be allowed to.
Oh yeah, it's just kind of weird that like stuff like Spanish has a lot of rules and like follows most of them to a T, and it makes English a very hard language to learn for a lot of people who speak Spanish. Because we don't really have have the same structural rules.
Yeah, you can break the rules, but have a reason to break them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And creative writing just throws monkey wrenches into that tenfold.
Oh yeah. All right. All right. I'll get started since I have limited time. All righty.
Done real quick. I gotta get going. My headset's about to die, and I gotta take care of this headache. I'm sorry.
Oh, go for it.
No problem, mate. Thanks for staying around as long as you did.
All right,
Yeah,
I'll see you guys.
you're pretty ill.
See you, mate. Get better, mate.
Thanks.
See you.
All right. So, Chapter 4 of Night of the Abyss. To summarize what's happened previously is that the army of Nornbard has set off to cleanse these cultists that have been salting fields, raiding farms, doing a lot of really bad stuff, and found out that one of the cities was fully infiltrated and experienced an ambush. They managed to fight out of it, but now they're worried that the people that are in the forest are going to have to worry about something even worse than what they've been dealing with. So this is picking up at a camp where one of them has been situated. One of the army camps has been situated. So that's the summary so far to get you up to speed. As soon as the messengers came in from on the rest of the forest talking about an imminent attack, Arthur began his plan. And should be his plan. The first thing he did was order his rangers into the trees with arrows at the ready, though their order were to move through the tree chops back to the edge of the forest. Once that was done, he had his cavalry hide outside the fortress and stand ready to smash into the enemy from behind, while his archers demoralized and weakened their formations. What happened next was not what he expected. Within moments, the sounds of slaughter were all around the castle. Arthur stood on the battlements with his crossbowmen, directing the battle as best he could. His men let loose bolt after bolt at the figures moving through the fog-covered trees, but none of none of the arrows did anything from his limited based on his limited perception. Whatever was out there was either an illusion or wasn't exactly human. He narrowed his eyes, trying to see something in the fog besides flights of arrows. Grunting, he ran down on the steps to the courtyard of the ruined castle, right as the gates were broken open. Arthur took a moment to stare at the creature who just destroyed their fortifications. It was a red, two-legged, scaly creature with a forward-facing body, its stumpy head filled with long fangs. Roaring, it charged again, causing Arthur to snap back to himself and leap out of the way. With a loud bang, the monster's head slammed into the wall. Just as Arthur got up, he saw that its rear was a smooth, fleshy tail with none of the thick armor on the rest of his body. Taking advantage of the opening, he drove his rapier right into the creature's tail, into what he hoped were its vital organs. The creature squealed, then collapsed to the ground, leaking bright red blood. Arthur turned around to examine the state of his troops, only to find that the courtyard was filled with strange monsters. Some were beasts with weapons on their arms, others held weapons. Others simply pummeled men in steel to the ground with their fists. All three seemed equally efficient at crushing his troops. Growling, Arthur let out a yell for his men to get into formation, but he was too late. More of the monsters had swarmed over the walls and were slaughtering his men. One, a creature with the body of a pot-bellied man, but a set of 4 metal eggs and a spike on his arm, charged him. 4 legs clanking against the ground as he slashed and hacked at Arthur. Without skipping a beat, Arthur dodged around the creature and stabbed it through its mouth, causing it to spasm and fall. One of the creatures with a sword in place of a forearm advanced, clearly more skilled in combat than his compatriot, then started moving his single-edged weapon with blinding speed toward Arthur. This can't be real, Arthur thought as he deflected stroke after stroke of the creature's blade. These creatures are myths. But they weren't. They were in front of him, and they were killing his men. Now Arthur could see how he had made his error. He had assumed that most of the enemy would be mortal men, dangerous, but human. This was something he could never have anticipated. Abruptly, something slammed into him from behind, bearing him to the ground and pinning him. Body screaming in pain, Arthur tried to get up, but a palm the size of a man's head pushed his face into the dirt. Take him. A hissing voice slithered into Arthur's ear as the creature he'd been dueling leaned down, putting his rotting mouth into his face, silver helmet obscuring everything else but its head, its mouth. Arthur only had time to wonder what they wanted from him before a sharp pain hit the back of his head. Varus was carefully planning out stratagems for putting his new troops to use when Kate and a pair of guards burst into the room. They were holding a badly brutalized man in Ranger's colors, a long scar across his face. A long bleeding wound across his face. What is this? Varus stood up and rounded his desk. It's one of our son's Rangers, Kate explained quickly. They went into the old forest and were attacked by demons. Demons aren't real. Varus shook his head. Stupid religious nonsense. Must be some kind of illusion, or men in masks. He was telling the truth, Kate said firmly. And made sure to place a truth spell on him so that it would give us the unadorned truth. Truth isn't always what you... Varus paused as he walked to the man and looked at his body, then frowned. What is this? He asked. pointing at what looked like a claw mark with several burn around it. A mark with several burns on it. Burns around it. Some kind of sorcery. No. Kate folded her arms. This is something far darker. What happened to my son? Varys asked. Was he among the dead? The ranger choked and forced out 3 words. They took him. Then his eyes closed and he sagged. Varys didn't realize he was shaking the man until after he'd grabbed him by the shoulders. Where is he? He shouted. Then he realized the man was dead. Swallowing back his fear and anger, Varys lowered the man into the ground and nodded to Kate. Prepare the men. He walked over to the stand where his bastard sword was resting. Without a word, he grabbed the sword and strapped it to his side. We're going to get our son back. Why is this place so empty? Mordred wondered as he walked through the deserted landscape of the Amarn Plain. There should be a few demons around, even if he wasn't around one of their cities. Ner'Gazul is quite far away from me, but this place should at least have a few demons running around. He remarked to the sword resting on his shoulder. Admittedly, it's probably been long enough that the demons are creating more cities and forming their societies. A sudden thought occurred to him. Unless my siblings are already free, and they've been funneling demons back to Yggdrasil. He started running, though where he was going he had no idea. He just had to keep running. He wished he had a horse or some other animal to carry him, but he couldn't just make something alive from the dead surroundings of simple rock, metal, and fire around him. Grunting, he kept on running. The gag in Arthur's mouth held back his screams of pain as the strange priests carved the intricate line patterns onto his body with hot knives. They'd strung it up by his wrists, thick iron manacles forcing him to an uncomfortable position. His feet just as firmly fettered to the floor. He had no idea why they were doing this. They hadn't tried to get information out of him. They were just cutting what looked like some sort of ritual pattern into his body. It hurt like fire, and he had no idea how to make it stop. He will be perfect. Through his watering eyes, Arthur could see someone tall and... Does that thing have blue skin? He realized with shock. Not only did the creature have blue skin, it also had no mouth or nose. How is it talking? There were more oddities to him, like his dark blue and gold armor that seemed grafted onto his skin, the rack of weapons across his back containing 4 swords, a spear, and a single-bladed hooked axe. But the worst were his dark red eyes, focused on Arthur as if he were a piece of meat. Whatever this creature was, it was even less human than the monsters that had taken him. 2 of the creatures that had captured Arthur stood by him, a large battle axe wielding beast encased in black and red armor with a pair of horns coming from where Icelet should have, and a monstrous fanged mouth giving in the helmet a demonic appearance. However, as strange as that creature was, his companion was far worse. He seemed made from silvery metal, except for his long, dirty blonde hair and the decayed skeleton mouth with blackened flesh around it. Bright white lines shone on his helmet, increasing the horror of his appearance. Casually, the blue monster walked over to Arthur, red eyes surveying the marks all across his skin as a master craftsman would inspect the work of his apprentices. It is good, he nodded in approval, then gestured to the cultist to move away. Prince Siegfried will be pleased at the offering of this man's flesh for his rebirth. You have done well. We are honored, Lord Gilgamar. The cultist bowed and moved away from Arthur. Something about the name sparked a memory in Arthur's mind. He could remember reading documents from over 2,000 years ago. Talking about two ancient gods named Gilgamar and Siegfried. All the parchments he'd read had claimed they'd walked amongst men, aiding their chosen in battle. He thought that they were just men who had been peerless warriors in their time. Only to have the histories inflate them into divine statues. I was wrong, Arthur thought as he stared into the creature's horrifying eyes. I was so wrong. And that'll conclude things for today. Hello?
I'm here, mate.
Oh, good.
You just got interesting. Just started getting interesting with that blue creature and the weird cultists.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry, I got this kind of distracted. Probably. I don't know why. But that was the bit that the blue. They went from blue hair to blue skin, apparently.
Yeah. I based him off of the Yu-Gi-Oh card, Abyss King Gilgamesh, from Yu-Gi-Oh. Kind of used the idea of something. The only facial feature that it has is its eyes. Everything else is just smooth skin.
Was that Siegfried, as in Wagner, as in slaying dragons and all that?
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep. Siegfried.
I
Yeah.
thought I heard that right.
Yep. Yeah. If it's kind of a combination of things. It's a reference to the Triple D, the Triple D archetype from Yu-Gi-Oh, which in itself is a reference to both apocalyptic events and historical figures. Like Dragonbane King Beowulf is a wolf man wearing Nordic armor. And he also appears in here, as well as Caesar, Genghis Khan, and Alexander the Great.
Do they all have weird anime eyes?
No.
Balder?
They just
They're
have
not.
giant. They just have giant ass swords.
They're not cute. Cute teenage Japanese weird girls.
No, one has naturally green hair, but that's because she's a wind goddess.
Oh, more weird hair. More weird hair colors.
Yeah.
I have something in Lady Margaret. I have a thing where all the ministers of the court, they have various colored hair, and some of them have various colored skin too. It's some bizarre thing that the emperors came up with, that because all the ministers of each ministry is a color. So if you're the green minister, then you got green hair and you got green, and now you've got green skin and stuff too. It's just really bizarre.
This is kind of the idea for some of them, for at least the main three.
Oh, okay.
But this is a better image, admittedly. I think think this is the main inspiration for what I used for Gilgamar. Hopefully I described it well.
He's got bizarre, weird purple stuff coming out of him.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that's energy, mate.
Yep. Probably. Oh, look, there's the
I guess
anime
the concept-
eyes.
I guess
There's
the concept of energy you still need a Balerion. Sorry.
Oh, look.
Well, energy doesn't look like that.
Yeah.
That's what you think.
Yeah. There's your googly anime eyes that you were wanting.
That is
Yeah,
not
but-
anime eyes.
Yeah, those aren't really anime eyes.
Those are literally two googly eyes put into a card and taken a picture of.
Yeah, yeah, those aren't the ones I was thinking of.
Any other thoughts before we conclude?
So the guy's son got killed or something.
He was captured. So Arthur is Varys's son. And
Oh, okay, because he's still alive then.
yeah. They even said like he said they took him. He didn't say they killed him. And I actually tried to make it clear that Arthur Varys Caldor is the son of Varys Caldor Zane, because of like the how names work in this particular country.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's always good to have little bits of world building things as to how people get their names and stuff.
Yeah, as opposed to how his wife Kara got her name, where it's the names of her two parents rather than her grandfather and grandfather, father and grandfather. But I think that's pretty much it. I'm excited for what we're going to be getting into later, because I put some interesting references to some couple of famous books. When I think the most famous book of all in there. I think you'll see it when I put them in when we get there.
The most
anyway.
famous book of all.
Yeah. Well, let's see.
It pops into my mind as the Bible, but maybe you mean Harry Potter's or something.
Oh no, I'm referring to the Bible because I don't really like Harry Potter very much.
Ah, good.
Yeah,
I still haven't.
go for it. Go for it, Spang.
I still haven't read it.
It's fine middle grade fantasy to get people into reading, but it's nothing special.
It's fun. It's a fun read.
Oh, it is fun. I like a lot. I think some of my favorite lines, like he tried to show no emotion on his face, but inside inside he was dancing. But in reality, his insides were suddenly dancing the conga.
Yeah, it's got a lively, vivid style.
Yeah, she does a lot of fun stuff. Alrighty, so I think tomorrow I'm gonna try to release, see what I need to release in terms of commentaries on Rumble, and I'll let you guys make you guys aware of it on the Discord. So if you haven't joined the Discord, that's where you're gonna find the Rumble commentaries, which are very fun. Like recently, we just did Batman Forever. Next week and next Tuesday we're doing frickin' Batman and Robin. And after we finish Batman and Robin, we will watch High Top Films. Batman Forever is a misunderstood masterpiece video that's 48 minutes long. Alrighty. We will conclude things there, my friends. Adios.
Cut, print, check the gate, moving on.